Tonight, we were blessed with a phenomenal football game, and we also got to watch the Dolphins play the Titans. Not going to lie to you, we'll talk about Dolphins-Titans. I probably saw about 60% of this game because when both games were on, I was definitely preferring to watch the Lions one. But let's talk about what this means from a fantasy football perspective real quick. Definitely was watching this game when you had the Will Levis injury. Levis goes down right at the very beginning. And what comes from this is Will Levis getting pissed on the sideline. Mason Rudolph comes into the game. Mason Rudolph looks good. I don't have the official injury word on Will Levis, but they don't look to go back to him. And obviously, I don't necessarily think that's a guarantee that they are rushing back to Will Levis, where Mason Rudolph makes the Tennessee Titans, not look great. It's not like Rudolph has a great day himself. It's just the Titans don't make some stupid mistakes that cost them the game that we've seen kind of time and time again so far this season. And if we're looking at what the majority of the value came from in Tennessee, it was obviously the running backs. You had the rushing touchdown both for Tony Pollard as well as the rushing touchdown for Tyjae Spears. Pollard comes away with the 22 carries. Spears comes away with 15. And obviously, we can sit here and go, oh my gosh, are we moving these guys up our rest of season ranks? We can head over to the site and we can see exactly where we have them ranked rest of season among all running backs right now. Tony Pollard's running back 23 in the expert rankings. Looking at my rankings in particular, we had Tony Pollard running back, 23 in our rest of season ranks. To be honest with you, I don't really think that we move Pollard up. I know it's a good game, but my baseline expectation is this is still a bad football team. Still a football team that's going to be trailing the majority of games. Yeah, you have 40 rushing attempts this contest, but at the same time, you played against the Miami Dolphins, couldn't get a first down. There's no way that we see another game environment like this for Tennessee going into the future. So I don't feel the need to move up Pollard. I don't feel the need to move up Tyjae Spears. I still view them the exact same. Pollard's a low-end RB2 that you definitely can start every week if you're not super strong, if you're not in a 10-team league. I mean, if you're in a 12-teamer, then yes, of course, you go ahead and you start Tony Pollard. And with Tyjae Spears, he is a desperation flex play outside of the instance that possibly, just possibly, you end up getting a Pollard injury and then Spears becomes a must-start running back. Or for Pollard, if Spears were to go down, then obviously he becomes a must-start back because their RB3 here isn't really going to take the work. It's just these two guys. If one were to go down, the other should see about 80% of the touches in that backfield moving forward. But yeah, nothing changes with the running backs. Going over to the receivers, I guess, RIP Calvin Ridley. Obviously the passing volume wasn't here in this offense. He had 102 total passing yards. He simply just didn't really need to throw the ball, to be completely honest with you. Going over and looking at the target volume that you had, you got a whopping 1.5 fantasy points for Ridley. Absolutely disgusting. DeAndre Hopkins does see the majority of targets with 4. I am interested to see the snap data come out, but honestly, it's not a close football game, so I don't necessarily know if the snaps even matter. But based off the fact this is an inefficient offense in the first place, now that DeAndre Hopkins kind of is looking like the wide receiver one at this point in a very bad offense, Calvin Ridley has to move down dramatically. We can go back over to the site, and I just pulled up the Flock League real quick so we can show your boy is 3-1. Yes, the power rankings may have us down here at number 6, and I will admit that with how bad my running back room is, then yes, if I had Tony Pollard, I would be looking to start Tony Pollard, to be completely honest with you. But let's go over to the rankings on the site and look at where Calvin Ridley is and see if we need to figure out, see if we need to move this guy down even further than we have him. I don't even know where we have Calvin Ridley off the top of our head, to be completely honest. I'd imagine I have him around wide receiver 40. I have Calvin Ridley wide receiver 38. Obviously, at this point, it looks laughable to have Calvin Ridley ahead of Jameson Williams, Christian Kirk, Michael Pittman, Jordan Addison, probably moving behind Ontavian Wicks, probably moving behind Keon Coleman. So you know what we're going to do is let's go ahead and let's actually pull up what we have here with our create rankings page. And let's go ahead and let's move Calvin Ridley down. Yeah, there's no way that we can have Ridley that high. We'll actually just jump him down here. I mean, honestly, if I had Calvin Ridley and I was offered Keon Coleman, I'd take Keon Coleman. If I had Calvin Ridley and I was offered Khalil Shakir, I may take Shakir. Can we rank Ridley over Hopkins at this point? Can y'all please spam the chat? Would you rather have Calvin Ridley or Courtland Sutton rest of season? Like, how far are we moving Calvin Ridley down here? I mean, Ridley gets paid $72 million this offseason. I assume Calvin Ridley's the wide receiver 1 here, especially with the DeAndre Hopkins injury. 1 vote Sutton, 1 vote Ridley, Sutton, Ridley, Sutton. Ridley. It looks like the vast majority of people are saying Courtland Sutton here. So maybe we do go ahead. Maybe we move Calvin Ridley all the way down to about the wide receiver 48 range. We can reevaluate later on. Maybe we are overreacting. But then, yeah, DeAndre Hopkins, am I super pumped to move Hopkins up? Probably not. If you were to get him dealt to like Kansas City, I think it would be a natural fit. I think Hopkins would fly up the rankings. Appears that he still has the talent, but it's a garbage offense. There's not much to get excited about here, even if the football team looked good because they were playing freaking Tyler Huntley. So y'all know as soon as Tua went down, I mean, it wasn't very hot takey for us to say, oh yeah, Tyreek has to fall dramatically. Jalen Waddle falls dramatically. Well, it was a little hot takey, which had people in the freaking comments telling me they were unsubscribing because I was just trying to make a hot take, blah, blah, blah. People were freaking pissed about Devon Achane. Now, obviously, we don't even really need to talk about Tyler Huntley. You're never starting Tyler Huntley. You never... I mean, the Dolphins shouldn't be starting. They should have Ryan Tannehill in here right now at this point. It's embarrassing that he is starting for the Miami Dolphins, a team that should have, I mean, you would think that they had Super Bowl aspirations coming into the season. But going over to what we have with the running back here, yeah, we said to trade Achane for Jefferson, trade him for St. Brown, trade him for Chase, trade him for Nico, trade him for an elite receiver, and we got cooked for it. Dear God. I won't let y'all forget what y'all did to me. But anyway, looking at the running back usage, everything went to Jalen Wright and Devon Achane. It really was that 2-man backfield. So, I mean, if Raheem Mostert's in here, it may look even a little uglier. Achane cannot save his day with the receptions. That's what I was told he was going to do. He gets you 3 targets, 3 receptions, 14 receiving yards. Now, with all this being said, with all this huffing and puffing, am I starting Devon Achane next week? Probably. He's one of the most dynamic running backs in the NFL. He is a great pass catcher. I would hope that they're not going back to Tyler Huntley. Obviously, Tyler Huntley can run the ball himself, so naturally you're going to have a lower checkdown rate overall compared to a quarterback that's going to be a little more stationary inside the pocket. So, to be honest with you, I'll probably still be starting him. I'll hope that we don't get Tyler Huntley again. But, I mean, in terms of our rest of season rankings, I had Achane, I want to say, as we had him RB5. At this point, I feel like you have to move behind Kamara. Like, there's no way that we can have Devon Achane ahead of Alvin Kamara at this point. Jonathan Taylor, obviously, you're dealing with the injury. These are rankings for a full PPR format, non-PPR league. Derrick Henry is going to double the points that you get from Devon Achane. Not literally, but figuratively. I'm not going to move Achane much further than this because Taylor's dealing with an injury. Tua, I think, will be back this season. Obviously, you can make a morality thing and go, oh, no, Tua's not coming back. Tua shouldn't come back. I don't think it matters what we think he should or should not do. I think he probably will be back. And looking at what we have with the receivers, Tyreek Hill leads the team in targets. I mean, a no-brainer, but still, who cares? You get 4 receptions, 23 receiving yards. Now, he does give you about 20 rushing yards as well. So you have about 8.5 points from Tyreek Hill. It's not the worst thing in the world. I was still saying you had to start Tyreek Hill regardless who the quarterback was. It's actually really funny is if you looked at what sportsbooks did when the Dolphins named Huntley as their starting quarterback this week, sportsbooks went out and gave this Dolphins offense an implied team total of close to 20 points. Like, they said the Dolphins offense was going to be better this week than they were last. Clearly, they overestimated Tyler Huntley. But like Tyreek Hill going into the future, realistically, how much do we change with these rankings? I probably have him behind A.J. Brown now, but we're another week closer to Tua probably coming back. Obviously, but I'll throw in the towel. I'll move Malik Neighbors ahead of him. Clearly, Malik Neighbors is leaps and bounds ahead of him in terms of no Tua in this offense. My thought process is when Tua is back in, at that point, you are going to have Tyreek probably going back to wide receiver 1 overall. So I don't want to sit here and rank Tyreek like wide receiver 24, how you would rank him when he has no Tua, when Tua could be back 2 weeks from now. Now, of course, that's a big coulda, woulda, shoulda. And yeah, obviously it does depend on your record. And that's going to be one thing that we actually implement with the My Teams page very soon, is we're actually going to be able to see everybody's record and make adjustments on that. And if you want to go over to the My Teams page, you can actually do this for free over there on flockfantasy.com, where you can link your team as long as it's a sleeper, ESPN, Yahoo League. Go ahead, link it with the site, and you can actually see the power rankings here based off the rest of season rankings from all the experts that we have. And you can also sort it by my own rankings, which is funny because if you look at my rankings, my team actually goes down in our league analyzer. Your boy's 3-1 though. We're 3-1. All right. Cut me some slack. But yeah, the rankings on the site are free as well. My rankings themselves probably be behind a paywall, but you can get the free average expert ranks live on flockfantasy.com literally whenever you want. You can go through the link in the description, live chat, or comment section if you want. But moving over to Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle gives you 7.5 fantasy points. Is it pretty? No. Is the offense good? No. But same conversation with Tyreek. It's a situation in which obviously Waddle's not startable when there's no Tua in here. But when Tua comes back in, Jalen Waddle skyrockets up these rankings. So in terms of where you put him rest of season, like reasonably, I don't know how much lower we want to move Jalen Waddle. I have him wide receiver 27. Like obviously with no Tua, you have him behind Worthy, you have him behind Amari, you have him behind Terry, you have him behind Brian Thomas, you have him behind JSN. We'll talk about JSN in a bit. You have him behind Pickens. But once Tua's back in, I would prefer Waddle over Higgins, Moore, Reed, Adams, Ayuk, Deontay, Diggs, Evans, Metcalf. Like he would jump up in these rankings to instead being that low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2. It's very difficult to rank those guys rest of season. Obviously, for the time being, we can say, okay, if you have no Tua, the man is not startable. But let's move over to the fun game. And I'm going to be honest with you. Like I said, I only watch about 60% of the Dolphins games because when I had the chance, this is the game I was watching. I don't know if we want to talk about the Seahawks or the Lions. We'll talk about the Seahawks. Looking at Seattle, this, I don't even know how you can put this into words. 56 pass attempts for Geno Smith. 5 carries as well. You throw in the sacks. You have over 60 dropbacks for Geno Smith in this game. Every single time you look at the screen, Geno Smith is dropping back. Like, we must have seen 40 play action pass attempts in comparison to 12 actual carries. 12 actual carries to Kenneth Walker. This is what the Lions defense does. The Lions defense is going to be that pass funnel. They are not going to allow you to run the ball. And you are going to see a ridiculous amount of overall passing volume. You have 12 targets going in the direction of DK Metcalf. You have 11 targets going in the direction of JSN. And you have 9 targets going in the direction of Tyler Lockett. So this is the first week where things are spread pretty evenly between the 3 receivers. What kind of sucks for these 3 receivers in particular is they're not the only players getting involved. They're not the only players drawing targets. This isn't like the Jets offense where everything is just extremely concentrated up at the very top. You have a total of 10 targets to the running backs. You have a total of 3 targets to Jake Bobo. You have, a ton of miscellaneous players get involved. Just to go through and count the amount of players that are actually seeing a touch this game. You got freaking Laviska Shenault. I didn't even know Shenault was on the Seahawks. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You have 10 separate players getting a reception for Geno, which actually does just kind of leak out and leak some of this value from those guys like Metcalf, Lockett, JSN, where despite Geno Smith having 60 plus dropbacks, despite Geno Smith having like 400 passing yards in this game, Metcalf's obviously great. I don't want to take anything away from Metcalf. Metcalf has the 17 fantasy points. And what is hilarious, let me share y'all this. Obviously, the Flock League video will drop tomorrow on the Flock League YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe. I think it's the best YouTube channel. I'm having so much fun with it. But yeah, it covers all this league. It's like a vlog style, entertainment style. But we have Sal in the league. Sal was going up against the worst team in the league, going up against one of the developers on flockfantasy.com. And the developer has traded away his entire team, has the absolute worst roster you could ever imagine. Sal comes so close to beating him. Sal's the first person to lose to the developer. And the reason for this is you don't get the DK Metcalf touchdown. DK Metcalf is inches away from a touchdown to move him to 2-2. But no, that touchdown does not come. I am sure that there are a lot of people that needed that DK Metcalf TD tonight that did not get it. Metcalf could have had an even much bigger game, but clearly it does not come here. Obviously, Metcalf's the guy you want in Seattle going into the future. JSN, 11 targets, super encouraging. But like we said, I mean, you have 400 passing yards, and it's not like Lockett. It's not like JSN, and neither of them pop off the chart. So going through and looking at our rest of season ranks here, yet again, realistically speaking, I don't know if we can move JSN up or down. Like, what the hell am I supposed to do from this game with this Jackson Smith and Jigba ranking? We have him wide receiver 33, right ahead of like Pickens, Flowers, Dell, Ladd, right behind guys like Rome, Brian Thomas, Terry McLaurin, Amari. And I think we keep him here as that borderline flex play. I'd assume if one of the receivers is going to get better as the season goes on, and one of them's going to get worse, probably it's the young stud like JSN is going to continue to improve. Lockett, we would assume, is going to continue to decline. But anyway, we're saving the best for last year. So what is so funny is you have the 60 Geno Smith dropbacks. You have 12. You have 12 Kenneth Walker carries. And the man has 80 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. I'm going to cry right now because I was so dumb. And I had the ability to take Kenneth Walker in the Flock League. I did not know he was on the board. And I dropped the ball here. Like, oh my gosh. I literally want to cry that I do not have Kenneth Walker on my team. This horrible matchup with no volume. He still manages to go out there and crush, coming off the oblique injury. Looking at Zach Charbonnet still has a role. You have 5 targets, 5 receptions, 39 receiving yards. It's like Charbonnet doesn't change in my rankings. If you are looking at Charbonnet here, he's the premium handcuff back. That could be a desperation play if you really need him. Like Charbonnet, Braylon Allen, they're the same guy, right? Immediate top 10 running backs if the guy ahead of them goes down. But if the guy ahead of him is playing, he's probably going to have a small role that you probably don't want in your lineup. But I don't even know where we have Kenneth Walker in our rest of season rankings. I am honestly a little afraid to figure this out together, but let's figure it out. And how much higher do we have to move the dude? All right, we had Kenneth Walker at RB14 coming into this game. There's no way in hell I could justify having Josh Jacobs over Kenneth Walker now. There's no way I could justify having Aaron Jones over Kenneth Walker. There's no way I could justify having James Cook. No way I could justify having Joe Mixon. Kenneth Walker immediately jumps to RB10, the very minimum. Let's go ahead and let's figure this out. Then I can get your opinion on if we need to move him even higher than that. But very minimum, he's up here at RB10. I already know everybody is going to be screaming at us to move Kyron Henry Walker higher. To be honest, based on the Jonathan Taylor injury, based on the HN performance, and just how bad this offense looks, I will go ahead. I will move Kyron ahead of HN Taylor. My thing with Taylor, and I could be wrong, but this is my assumption right now. This is what I'm basing these rankings off of. Rappaport says this is a high ankle sprain, which tells me, oh crap, he's out 4 to 6 weeks. But then he goes, no. It's a mild high ankle sprain. maybe misses a week or two. So I'm sitting here going, okay, I have no idea what the hell to expect with JT. If JT were to miss 0 games, obviously Jonathan Taylor is higher than this. But a running back dealing with a high ankle sprain, regardless of if it is a mild or regardless of, I don't care if it's a high ankle sprain, I'm going to be concerned. All right. So we will have Taylor here at 8. I know everybody really wants to move HN down. Remember, I was the guy who got so much heat for saying to sell Devon HN after that Buffalo game where he drops 30 plus points in the game that Tua gets injured, off the thesis, this offense is going to be a dumpster fire with no Tua. But at the same time, what happens when Tua comes back in 2 weeks and Devon HN goes back to being a top 5 running back? I would 100% agree with you. In the rankings this week that will come out for week 5, HN will be behind Walker. He will be behind Henry. He will be behind Mixon. He will be probably behind Cook and Jones. He may be behind, he's definitely going to be behind Jordan Mason as already. He'll probably be down here as like a mid RB2. But when we get Tua back, I don't know. I don't want to go through and go like, oh yeah, he's bad with no Tua, so let's move him down to RB17. And then, oh guys, Tua's back. Let's move back up to running back 5. You know, like, I think based off Taylor, I mean, maybe not even being available to you over the next 2 weeks, HN at least gives you RB2 production over the next 2 weeks. And then I think he can be a top 5 running back when Tua does come back. So y'all probably convince me to change this, but just explaining my thought process right now. We don't need to keep talking about HN. We already did that enough. Walker comes to 10. The thing that will maybe hold him back for me, just for right now, obviously, this is a week-to-week thing. I tinker with these rankings literally every single day. I'm so proud of what we've been able to build over on flockfantasy.com. And other than YouTube, I spend more time on this site than any other site on the internet at this point. I'm just straight up tinkering with these rankings every day. I'm sure that maybe I can convince myself to move Walker up a little bit more, but it is a very small sample. He looks phenomenal, but it's off of 12 carries. Charbonnet does see the 5 targets as well. I do think that Charbonnet is going to be involved somewhat. I don't know if we were going to have this many yards. How many yards did you have? You had over 500 yards here in Seattle this week. You had 4 touchdowns in Seattle. I don't know if Seattle's going to score this many points every single week going into the future. So I think we have Kenneth Walker at RB10. And then with Zach Charbonnet, I can double check where we had him. I think we have him ranked as like the premium. Yeah, we literally have him back-to-back with Braylon Allen. These desperation plays, if you really needed a flex, but if the starter were to go down in front of him, then all of a sudden they're immediately top 10 backs. So yeah, we're going to keep him about in that range. I think you can nitpick down there, the bottom end, but it's more about the range that matters. But let's move over to Detroit. This is just such a fun offense. Literally, it cannot be more fun than this. Now, we've gotten a lot of heat, gotten a lot of slack, or heat, slack, obviously opposite ends of the spectrum, but gotten a lot of heat for coming out ranking Jahmyr Gibbs consistently as that tier 1 back with the thought process. We've seen him have a goal line role. It's the best offensive line in the NFL. At the same time, top end receiver. Be honest with you, I don't love what we had from Jahmyr Gibbs today. Looked great as a rusher. But what's a little concerning with Gibbs, and I don't know why this is the case here. You go over to the receiving stat line. Jahmyr Gibbs' name doesn't show up once. The reason Gibbs is ranked this high in my rest of season rankings is I am ranking him under the assumption that Jahmyr Gibbs is the new age Alvin Kamara. That Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be the running back that has touchdown upside, that has a massive role as a receiver, running behind the best offensive line in the NFL, elite level talent that's young, athletic, dynamic. And Gibbs gives us nothing here as a receiver. Now, this wouldn't be the end of the world if it was the case that this was the first week that we had this from Jahmyr Gibbs. Because I'm not going to sit here and go like, oh, okay, yeah, we need Jahmyr Gibbs to be a top-end receiver every single week, even in a game where Jared Goff only has 19 completions. Because obviously in the environment that Goff only has 19 total pass attempts and 19 completions, we're not expecting much from Gibbs in that department. But now this is back-to-back contest now. Fair warning, I am pulling up ESPN here, so you are about to see the most ads that you have ever seen fit on a single screen. I have no idea how they managed to do it. I need to look into how we can do this on flockfantasy.com. I need to figure out how we can start bombarding y'all with this amount of ads just to see this little tiny box score here. But you better believe the second that I figure out how to work a computer, I will double the amount of ads that this has on flockfantasy.com. Obviously, all jokes. We don't have a single ad on the site, mainly because I don't know how to. But anyway, looking at it, you have back-to-back games here with no targets for Gibbs. He gets there with the rushing touchdown, which I absolutely love to see. Obviously, I'm a Jahmyr Gibbs fanboy. But to be honest with you, I don't know how we can be like that. I can't move Gibbs up. I almost want to move Gibbs down behind Kamara. Again, you know what? I'm probably going to do it. I'm probably going to move Kamara up to RB4. Because if we want to make such a big deal about the receiving usage that you're going to have for these players, like to go through and look at Alvin Kamara here. Alvin Kamara, obviously, you get the goal line roll as well, similar to what you have with Jahmyr Gibbs. You have the rushing touchdown upside. But at the same time, Kamara's given you 17 receptions so far this season. This past week, Kamara has 9 freaking targets out of the backfield. This is the kind of receiving floor that we are looking for. This is why I'm not fully giving up on Bijan Robinson. This is why I'm not fully giving up on Breece Hall, because they're showing us that receiving floor. And side note, dear God, check out this ad. Building muscle after 60 comes down to this one thing. I have no idea how they got my image and likeness here. I have no idea who signed off on this. I'm going to have to talk to my agent because I do not remember allowing them to put my body on an old man. But regardless, let's move this over. We'll move Gibbs behind Kamara. Obviously, Gibbs looked great. I don't want to sit here and act like this was horrendous. I love our boy Gibbs. But anyway, going ahead to what we have with David Montgomery. Obviously, this is a concern with Montgomery. Gibbs will have that role at the goal line occasionally. Am I sitting here going, oh my gosh, I told y'all not to draft David Montgomery. Listen to me, Jahmyr Gibbs. No, of course. David Montgomery still gets there. This is the best offensive line in the league. And David Montgomery has the sickest freaking play you could ever imagine. F it. I'm going to show it to y'all. For the love of God, YouTube, do not take down my YouTube channel. Do not take down my channel, YouTube. I'm going to show it in a small screen. Hopefully this doesn't ruin me. Hopefully everything that I've built over years doesn't go away just because I wanted to show this little cool clip to y'all. But you never know. It is YouTube. Okay. Let's bring this over. Look at this. Bounces off after the reception. Freaking nuts. You think the man's going to go down for a 4-yard gain, gets hit like a rock and just stands there as if nobody ever touched him, breaks 2 more tackles, busts off the 40-yard reception. Unbelievable for David Montgomery. Great play. Am I moving him up in our rankings because of it? No. Looks great. We already know the situation, though. Gibbs has the goal line usage, which is going to be concerning. Montgomery has goal line usage as well. Obviously, Montgomery comes away with the touchdown in his own right. But yeah, we had David Montgomery as RB15 in our rest of season ranks coming into the week. I'm going to have to read more on the McCaffrey Achilles stuff. I know that we had the news coming out that McCaffrey has Achilles tendonitis in both legs, blah, 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 blah. We'll update the rankings on the site later when I get more information about it. But anyway, now going over to what we have at wide receiver. Jameson Williams is cooking. 5-star Michelin restaurant out here. Now, with Jameson, I know people are going to say, oh, take your L, take your L, take your L. Jameson Williams is a field-stretching wide receiver that is going to have big plays, that is going to have massive booms and massive bust. Am I changing my mind after this performance? No, not at all. Yes, we get the 70-yard receiving touchdown. It's beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful from Jameson Williams. That's exactly what you're looking for. He has 2 targets, okay? He has 2 targets. I can't move him up my rankings after this game. Looking at this, we have Jameson Williams, wide receiver 38. We have him right in the same range as Flowers, Dell, Ladd. These are all wide receivers that are like flex considerations. F it. I'll move Dell down for y'all. I know y'all are going to scream at me for that. These are flex considerations for you every single week that you have a low floor, high ceiling for. And also, they can continue to get better as the season goes on, as those young assets with good quarterbacks in good offenses. I think they're all about in a similar range. It's like a boom bust flex play. I don't think that changes. Now, going over to what we have with Sam LaPorta. In a game where we have 19 Jared Goff pass attempts, this is the best you can ask for. Now, we can go back over to what we have on the My Teams page, and we can look at the 3-1 squad yet again that your boys been able to build. But what I did in this league is I went through and I drafted Sam LaPorta in round 4. And I did it in a bunch of underdog drafts as well. And it's been brutal. I wasn't really sweating his production tonight because we already had the win locked up this week. But for my underdog teams and for the future of Sam LaPorta, I was very concerned. Now, Brock Wright drawing 2 targets just kind of pisses me off. Like, honestly, there was one of these that I thought it was LaPorta that got the ball, and I got all excited. And then it turned out to be Brock Wright. Does this guy need to be involved? Does he? The hope with LaPorta is we get to see a little bit of the flash this game where we get the 4 targets, we get the 53 receiving yards. This is like, what, a 20% team target share for a tight end? In today's NFL, that's everything. That's everything you could ever ask for from a tight end one. The bye week is here. LaPorta was dealing with the hamstring before the season started, was dealing with the ankle this past week. The hope is LaPorta's fully healthy coming out of the bye. We look back at the end of the season and we go, oh, do y'all remember when we all panicked about Sam LaPorta at the beginning of the year because he started off slow, coming off the hamstring and getting the ankle injury? That is the hope. And that is what I really need to be the case. Now, is that a guarantee? No, not at all. Am I trying to manifest something? Yes, I am. But let's go ahead and let's pull this up. It's not as bad as what you have with, say, like, it's pretty bad. I was going to say it's not as bad as Kyle Pitts. It's not as bad as Mark Andrews. Let's say that. It's not as bad as Mark Andrews. You are sitting here with a total of 14 targets this season through the first 4 weeks. So what? We're averaging 3.5 targets per game. Okay, yeah, that's not good. We have about 150 receiving yards so far through the first 4 weeks. They're averaging like 30-something receiving yards a game. What sucks is you don't have a single touchdown. What sucks is when they get to the goal line, their offensive line's so good. Their running backs are so good. They're just running it in every single time. I still am going to rank LaPorta as a tight end 1 rest of season. Mid tight end 1, that is. Is he the tight end 1 I had him ranked coming into the year as? No. I mean, we can go ahead and pull him up where I have him in the rankings. I don't even remember where we have him in the rankings right now. But let's see where we had him as in the rankings coming into this week. Tight ends. I had him tight end 6. Do we move him behind Ferguson? I feel like, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be very honest. If I wasn't so heavily invested into Sam LaPorta and I was just trying to give you all the best advice and the best rankings I possibly could, which obviously is what I should do, but sometimes I'm a little salty. Sometimes I'm trying to manifest something. I would move Sam LaPorta behind Jake Ferguson. Jake Ferguson has all the target volume in what should be a very good offense, an offense that can't run the ball, an offense that's throwing the ball a ton. But I don't want to put that out there into the world. If Sam LaPorta, who obviously is on my fantasy football team, is watching this, I don't want him to see that I may or may not be giving up faith. And instead, I'm going to say, Sam LaPorta, I believe in you. Don't you worry. Yes, I'll be picking up another tight end on the waiver wire this week, but that's just to fill in for your bye, and you'll be my guy coming out of the bye week, and you still have my full faith and confidence. Now, for your fantasy football team, I'd say maybe you probably prefer Jake Ferguson. And just quick side note, as we move over to Amon-Ra St. Brown, somehow they also got the name, image, and likeness of my father over here as well. Crazy that they're using the Dodd family for their advertisements on ESPN. But anyway, let's move this over to what we have with Amon-Ra St. Brown. St. Brown gives you the 6 targets off the 19 pass attempts here in Detroit. beautiful, what? Let's do some math in my head. 25%? More than that. 30%? It's like a 30% team target share that you have for the Detroit Lions here with the Amon-Ra St. Brown. And you get the passing touchdown. The Lions, this game, let me know if y'all think I'm losing my mind here. And obviously, I'm making jokes. I'm in a good mood. This feels like one of the first good football games we've had in a long time. Like, this is what I look for in the NFL. We get action. We get points. We get fun plays. It's exciting watching Lions games. This is exciting. We get the 2 touchdowns from Amon-Ra St. Brown, 1 through the air, 1 catching the ball. Before this game, I had Amon-Ra St. Brown ranked as my wide receiver 1. If you go over to flockfantasy.com, like I said, you can always check out these rankings for free. The free rankings are the expert rankings. Those are the average of everybody here on the site. Everybody updates these every single week. I'm sure you know the vast majority of all these guys, all very popular on YouTube, of course. But looking at what they had Sam LaPorta wide receiver 3, or we all did on average. I'm not Sam LaPorta, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I had Amon-Ra St. Brown wide receiver 1. I had him ahead of Lamb. I had him ahead of Jefferson. I had him ahead of Nico Collins. The thing with St. Brown is this man could not be more consistent. I don't see how he possibly could be. Like, let's go ahead and let's pull this up. Amon-Ra St. Brown, let's ignore week 1. Consistency starts in week 2. It always does. Week 2, we're looking at the, 23 fantasy points. Week 3, we are looking at another 20 fantasy points. Week 4, we are looking at another 20 fantasy points. Let's go over to what we had in 2023. Is this very different? No. To end the season, you're looking at 27 fantasy points. You're looking at 21 fantasy points. You're looking at 29 fantasy points. 24 fantasy points. And then a bad stretch of games here in the middle. But pretty much the last 4 games that we have here, obviously throwing the playoffs, every single one of these performances look like pretty much a 20-point game. So that's the last 7. Then here you have 4. The last 10 out of like 11 games for Amon-Ra St. Brown, you've had 20 fantasy points in a full PPR format. Just this kind of consistency is insane. And an offense that I believe is one of the best offenses in the NFL. All the historical data tells us you want the wide receivers that are in the best offenses in the NFL. Consistently, they are going to be top options. So, I don't know. Jameson Williams helps Amon-Ra St. Brown because Jameson is that deep ball specialist, that field stretcher that is going to take safety attention. I love St. Brown. If you wanted to have Lamb over him, obviously, I'm not going to fault you for it. If you wanted to have Jefferson, Nico Collins, I'm not going to fault you for it. If you have St. Brown lower than wide receiver 4, then we probably have a problem. But yeah, I think that probably should be it here. Let me go ahead and do something real quick. Of course, if you ever wanted to check out any of these free tools that we have over on flockfantasy.com, I've worked my butt off building this stuff out for you over the past 2 years. Site's never been in a better place. It's only uphill from here. The developers are working their butts off every single day to try to bring y'all as many free tools as possible, as many useful tools as possible. Obviously, it's not the first trade calculator that's ever been made, but you can put in your exact league settings. We have a bunch of different adjustments for the exact league settings that you're in. You can go ahead and you can use the exact fantasy creators rankings that you want to go off of. You can link your team and actually see updated power rankings. Avery's team, I actually have to play this guy next week. Don't tell him I said this, but it's kind of nuts. He has Jefferson, St. Brown, Walker, Etienne, Jones, Jaden Daniels, Brock Bowers. It's going to be an uphill battle, but we will figure it out. But anyway, all this stuff's free over there on flockfantasy.com. You can go to the trade calculator. If you want to figure out like, oh, what can I trade Amon-Ra St. Brown for? You go ahead and go, Amon-Ra St. Brown. And then we'll automatically load from Sleeper ESPN all real trades from today in real leagues where Amon-Ra St. Brown was dealt. You can go, Amon-Ra St. Brown and Tyreek Hill trades. What do those look like? There was a trade made today. Amon-Ra St. Brown was traded straight up for Tyreek Hill. Oh, there was a trade made a couple days ago. Tyreek Chuba for St. Brown Eckler. And you can see what real trades look like in real fantasy football leagues. All free for you. Calculator free. Rankings free. Make sure you take advantage. We've been working our butts off to get you all this stuff. And it's flockfantasy.com. You can find the link in the live chat, the link in the description. Full transparency, linking with ESPN if you're in a private league is probably going to be a little bit of pain in the butt. You are going to have to do it on the computer because you have to download some extension. But honestly, you only have to do it once, and then your team's linked with the site for an entire year. So just sit down, do it once, and you can use all the cool tools that we've built out for y'all. But, oh my gosh, we've been live for 40 minutes talking about these games. Usually it's a lot quicker than that, but I was excited. This was a phenomenal set of games or game that we had with the two exciting offenses with the Seahawks and Lions. But appreciate y'all. If you want to hear us talk about the Dolphins and the Titans, you can just rewind this to the very beginning after we end the stream. But really do appreciate you. Definitely go check out flockfantasy.com. Links in the comment section, description, and live chat. That's all I got for you. Hope that we get to see you out with the live stream tomorrow, and we'll be dropping waiver wire videos in the morning.